Hi everybody, welcome to an English reading class. In this hour, we're going to be reading an article about solar energy in Germany. So if you are interested in practicing reading in English, reading out loud, and going over vocabulary and understanding this article, the level is intermediate to advanced. So it's not a beginner class. So we will be reading. I have posted the link in the in the Verbling chat. I also will put it in the Google chat. So you can go there now and open it up and you will be able to see it. I see that quite a few people are there already. So that's great. If you want to come into the class and you have made a reservation, you can get the reservation now just by clicking that blue button. Maybe it's right there. And that way you can come in and you can join me here in the Google Hangouts, and also Marcia's here. Marcia, are you from Spain? Where are you from?
No, I was born in Brazil,
Brazil.
But I'm in Wales, UK.
Yeah. Okay, I remember now. So how's it going over there in Wales?
A little better. Today was a very nice day with the sunshine.
Oh, good.
Not too hot today, but
not like Brazil.
yeah, no.
Great.
Okay.
So, how long have you been there in Wales?
I will complete 2 years in my May.
Oh, okay.
My English is yet terrible, but
how's it living in Wales? Is it difficult to understand them when they speak?
The accent is very strong.
Yes.
We needed a lot of time to use to hear and understand. Now I understand it quite well,
okay.
but it was very difficult.
Yes. How is this where you're going to live, or do you plan to return to Brazil?
I plan someday, I don't know when, back to Italy. I lived already in Italy, and it's a very nice place to live. I would like to come back to Italy.
Okay. What part of Italy did you live in?
Near to Venice.
Okay.
My town is Vicenza.
Vicenza. Okay. Great. So, Brazil, Italy, Wales. Any other countries?
Switzerland. I live in Switzerland too.
Wow.
I speak wrong 4 languages now.
Okay, Portuguese, Italian, English, and what? German? French.
French.
Okay. Très bon. Très bien. Good. That's great. So why are you moving around so much?
It's a long story.
Okay.
A very long story. I was sad with the violence in Brazil. I'm worried about my husband, and I have a teenager son.
Yeah.
So I was searching for a safely place to live, and he fell for the destiny.
Yeah.
I finished here. I like it here.
Okay.
Only the weather is very sad.
Yeah.
Cloudy, rainy, and snow.
Yes.
On the most of the time.
Yeah. Okay, great. Hi everybody, I'm just chatting here with Marcia while I was waiting for people to come in. So welcome everybody to the reading class. In this hour, we're going to read an article together. It's an article that I found off of a new website. Usually I go to like the New York Times or Wired.com or something like that. But this time I found an article about solar energy in Germany. So I thought it would be interesting to read about what's happening over there because as many people know, lots of people in different countries are looking for new and alternative ways to create energy so we can have our modern day life with all the things that we like the internet, and we need electricity. And so some of the problems we've had with nuclear power and coal and things like that are motivating people to try something new, and solar has been around for a while, and it turns out that in Germany they can produce quite a lot of energy with all the solar panels that they've been installing in different places over the years. So that's what the article is about. It looks like a lot of people have gone there already, so I will put it up in the screen share in just a minute, but I think we have time to introduce ourselves and say hi to everybody. So I want to go with Amanda. How about you start by telling us, just tell us your name and where you live.
My name is Amanda. I'm from Brazil.
From Brazil. Okay, wonderful. Arancha.
Hello, my name is Arantxa and I'm from Spain.
Okay. And Bimal? Bimal, is your microphone on? Sometimes it's muted when you come into the Hangout. So check on your...
Now, what about now? Now you can hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes. Great.
Okay, I am from Sri Lanka actually.
Sri Lanka. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Great. Hamid?
Yes, hello everyone. I am Hamid from Turkey. I am a chemist and I also made my master's about energy storage.
Oh, okay. So you can help us out with this, huh?
Maybe.
Okay, well, you can give us the chemistry perspective. Okay, Hossam, how are you doing? Check on your... Oh, there you go.
Hello, how are you?
Great.
Yes, I just joined you. I was observing you from the start. I was in your class, previous class. My name is Hassan. I'm from Egypt.
Egypt. Okay, wonderful. Welcome. Welcome to the reading class. And
Yeah,
Lisa, you're
welcome
back.
you.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, cool.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julissa. I'm from Peru.
Okay. And Keen.
Hello, I'm Keen. I'm from Egypt.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa, and I'm from the United States. I live in Washington.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, Marcia.
Hello, I'm Brazilian, but I'm living now in Wales, UK.
In the UK, in the United Kingdom. Okay. And Susanna. Oh, wait.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Suzanne, and I live in Brazil.
Okay, 3 Brazilians in one class. Okay, and women too. Oftentimes we have a lot of men in our classes, but today the women are showing up.
Yes.
Okay, good job.
Yes.
It's okay, we like the men too, but it's good that the women can come on to the classes sometimes. Okay, here we go. We're going to read, and the way that we do this is I read first, and the reason why I'm reading first is just so that you guys can listen and read along in your minds, and you can hear how I say the words. So for practicing listening to my pronunciation, as Marcia knows, living in Wales, lots of different types of accents in the English language. Lots of people who speak English in, of course, England and the United Kingdom speak differently than we do here in the United States. And of course, you probably know that in the United States, we have a large variety of people, so we have lots of different accents even in our own country. And then, of course, you have the Australians, Canadians, New Zealanders. So it's good to train your ear to hear different types of ways to pronounce words, even though you're learning the same language, which is English. So you can listen to me. I'm an American, and I'm from the West Coast. So I have a West Coast type of accent. All right, so I'll read, and then I will call on people to read the same thing that I just read. And I really want you to try to understand the article. You don't have to understand every single word, but it's important to just get the main ideas of each paragraph, and we call that the gist. So you want to just get the gist of it. So you basically want to understand it. If you want to learn more words and improve your vocabulary, then of course you can look up words, or you can ask me and I will explain things. Usually how I do it is for every paragraph that we read, I summarize it in my own words so you guys can maybe understand it a little better. If you have any questions at any time, just go ahead and ask your question. You don't have to worry about interrupting. It's okay, so just ask. All right, so here we go. Title is Germany's Solar Power Success. Too much of a good thing? That's a question. Too much of a good thing? So, okay, so then here's the caption for this picture. Solar panels on a German house. So that's what those solar panels look like there. And I will read the first paragraph, and then I will call on Susanna to read it again. It's been a long, dark winter in Germany. In fact, there hasn't been this little sun since people started tracking such things back in the early 1950s. A few days before Easter, the streets of Berlin were still covered in ice and snow. But spring will come, and when the snow finally melts, it will reveal the glossy black sheen of photovoltaic solar panels glinting from the North Sea to the Bavarian Alps. Okay, Susanna?
Okay. It's been long, dark winter in Germany. In fact, there hasn't been this little sun since people started tracking such things back in the early 1950s. A few days before Easter, the streets of Berlin were still covered in ice and snow. But spring will come, and when the snow finally melts, it will reveal the glossy black, so I can't read well, black sheen of, sheen of photo, I can't read.
Okay, photo, that's the first part. And then it's voltaic.
So photovoltaic solar panels glinting from the North Sea to the Bavarian Alps. I can see very well because it's dark for me.
Oh, yeah, okay. Your room's kind of dark. Okay. Okay, so it's been a long, dark winter. So basically, they know that in the winter time, the solar panels don't get used very much because in Germany, it's pretty dark and snowy and icy. But in a little while, all of that snow will melt and it will reveal. So reveal is another word for show. So then you will see the glossy black sheen. So that's describing, if you look on this, yeah, I'm going to describe it. So if you look on this picture right here of these solar panels, I can make it a little bigger maybe so you can see a little better. You can see how they're shiny. So you call this the sheen. That's the shiny part. And when the shiny part gets exposed to the sun, not only is it making electricity, but it looks very shiny. So that's what they're talking about. A glossy, that's shiny. Black sheen, that's the covering of it, the coating. So that means the shiny part. And these solar panels are called photovoltaic solar panels, and they glint. Glint is another word for shining. So they're They're just talking about how pretty soon, once the snow melts off of the roof, you're going to see these black, shiny solar panels. Okay? Solar panels line Germany's residential rooftops and top its low-slung barns. They sprout in orderly rows along train tracks and cover hills of coal mine tailings in what used to be East Germany. Old Soviet military bases, too polluted to use for anything else, have been turned into solar installations. Okay, Marcia?
Solar panels line Germany's residential rooftops and tops its low-slung barns. They sprout in orderly rows along. Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing now. Along train tracks and cover hills of coal mine training in what used to be East Germany. Old Soviet military bases, too polluted to use for anything else, have been turned into solar installations.
So what they're saying, I'm going to show you in a picture. Do you guys see that picture there? Yeah. So it's not very good, but what they're basically talking about is, of course, they have solar panels on the rooftops. So residential means where people live instead of commercial where businesses are. So residential is people's houses. And then also in various places throughout Germany, like places where there used to be coal mines. And now instead of the coal mines, they put the solar panels in there. So it looks like that, okay? So that's not necessarily Germany, but that's what it looks like. These are called solar panel installations, where they make big lines full of the solar panels. So that's where they're putting them. So even on old Soviet military bases, so where the Soviet army used to have its bases in East Germany, and they're too polluted to do anything else with them, they've turned them into these solar installations, so lining up a lot of those solar panels. 22% of Germany's power is generated with renewables. Solar provides close to a quarter of that. The southern German state of Bavaria, population 2.5 million, has 3 photovoltaic panels per resident, which adds up to more installed solar capacity than in the entire United States. Wow. Okay, that's a lot. Keen.
22% of Germany's power is generated with renewable solar, provides close to a quarter of that. The southern German state of Bavaria, population 12.5 million, has 3 photovoltaic panels per resident, which adds up to more installed solar capacity than in the entire United States.
That's pretty amazing. Okay, so the state of Bavaria, that's in the southern part of Germany. They have lots and lots. So I figured out it's about 37.5 million solar panels just in that one state in Germany. So that's not even a very large area, and it's more than all of the solar panels that are installed in the United States. So Germany is definitely leading the way in solar energy. I just want to make sure everybody knows this word here, renewables. So renewables is renewable energy, something like solar energy, wind power, things like that, not coal.
Geothermal.
Geothermal, yep, that would be something that is renewable, not gas or coal mining. Okay, here's a big long paragraph here. With a long history of coal mining and heavy industry and the aforementioned winter gloom, which Mars is experiencing in Wales, winter gloom, Germany is not the country you'd naturally think of as a solar power. And yet a combination of canny regulation and widespread public support for renewables has made Germany an unlikely leader in the global green power movement and created a groundswell of small-scale power generation that could upend the dominance of traditional power companies. Okay, lots of things to talk about in that paragraph. All right, Yulisa?
Yeah.
With a long history of coal mining and heavy industry and the aforementioned winter gloom, Germany is not the country you naturally think of as a solar power. And yet a combination of canny regulation and widespread public support for renewables has made Germany an unlikely leader in the global green power movement and created a groundswell of small-scale power generation that would upend the dominance of traditional power companies.
Okay, so let's talk about some things here. So Germany has had a long history of coal mining. So that's where you mine coal to make energy. And heavy industry. So lots of industries of making things, manufacturing, steel, cars, things like that. So that's what they have a history of doing. And they also have what they call winter gloom. That is talking about the lots of snow, not very much sun, cold, winter weather. Aforementioned just means that they mentioned it already up in the beginning of the article. So something that is aforementioned, it is mentioned before. Okay, so Germany is not really a country you would think of that would have a lot of solar power because it doesn't get so much sun like other countries, like in Egypt, for example, has a lot of sun. Yet a combination of canny regulation and widespread public support. So they have these two things. They have the government regulating, and they also have public support for renewables, renewable energy. That's made Germany an unlikely leader. So when you use the word unlikely, it just means that you wouldn't think of them, but they are a leader. So it's unlikely that they would be it, but they turn out to be a leader in the global green power. So that's another word that we use in English to talk about solar energy, geothermal, wind power. They call it green power. And they created a groundswell. So that's talking about a lot of small people, smaller groups of people getting together to create something big. So that's what we're calling a groundswell. And in fact, what's happening is that this might upset or upend the dominance of traditional power companies. So usually the large power companies have a hold on the market, and when smaller companies start doing something different, then sometimes that affects the powers that be, the big, huge companies, in this case, the coal industry probably, and also the nuclear power plants, for example, that are happening, that they have a lot of in Germany. Okay, hi Susanna, you came in.
Hi, how are you?
Good. And hi Fa, I saw that you came in too earlier. So let's read this next one. Does anybody have any questions about that? Did you understand what's going on in that paragraph? There's a lot of words.
And Lisa, what's the meaning of canny? Canny regulation.
Canny. Canny means kind of like clever or smart. So the regulation is clever. So they made some laws that were kind of like pretty good, smart, or intelligent laws. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they're not dumb. They're not dumb.
Very clever.
Yeah, they're clever. Yeah, they're kind of, they helped. They were the types of regulations that helped create more support. Sometimes when the government regulates things, it makes it, it's kind of negative. It makes people not want to do things. But this canny regulation was clever, so it helped make more support for that. Okay? That's what that means, canny. Clever. I wrote it in the Verbling chat. Okay, 20 years ago, it was clear solar power wasn't going to get anywhere by itself. Photovoltaic panels were expensive and inefficient. Even solar systems designed to heat water, a far less technologically tricky task, were bad buys on the open market. Okay, Hassam?
Yes. 20 years ago, it was clear solar power wasn't going. Hello?
Okay.
Wait, I'm going to get it. 20 years ago, it was clear solar power wasn't going to get anywhere by itself. Photovoltaic panels were expensive and inefficient. Even solar systems designed to heat water, a far less technologically tricky task, were bad buyers on the open market.
Okay. So basically they're saying that 20 years ago it was expensive. That's basically expensive and not so efficient, not very efficient. It wasn't a very good buy for people to invest in solar panels. Okay?
Yes.
That's what that paragraph wants to say. Producing electricity from sunlight costs 10 times more than generating power using coal or nuclear energy. The early systems might as well have been made out of gold, says David Wedpol, a spokesman for Germany's Solar Industry Association. Okay, Hamid?
Producing electricity from sunlight costs 10 times more than generating power using coal or nuclear energy. The early systems might as well have been made out of gold, says David Wedpol, a spokesman for Germany's Solar Industry Association.
Yeah. So, yeah, made out of gold. It might as well have been. They're just saying it's just like it was made out of gold because it was so expensive. So it could have been made out of gold. In 1991, German politicians from across the political spectrum quietly passed the Erneuerbare Energiengesetz, Renewable Energy Law, or EEG. It was a little heralded measure with long-lasting consequences. Okay, Fa?
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I am from Iraq.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
Okay. In 1991, German publication from across the
Go ahead.
public
Spectrum, yeah.
Spectrum quietly passed the
You can just read the English part. Renewable energy law. That's in German, the other part. So.
in general, Jason Renewable Energy Law, or EEG. It was a little heralded
measure
with long lasting
consequences. Okay, good. Whoops. Let me put it back in the screen there. Yes, so what they're saying is that, it was so expensive, but the German government, the politicians here, the German politicians, they supported and passed a new energy law. So I wanted to explain here the political spectrum. So the spectrum talks about where from one side to the other. So in this case, it's a political spectrum. That's talking about from like the left, the progressives, all the way to the right where the conservatives are. So basically all of the politicians agreed that this was a good thing. And so they passed this renewable energy law.
Yeah. Spectrum, we can't say perspective?
No, spectrum is like like the spectrum of like the color spectrum is the spectrum is describing the distance, like the whole group of people. So the
Different
spectrum,
political
Lisa,
parties.
maybe we can say scale.
No, you would say the political.
Different parties.
Okay, so if I talk about the spectrum of colors in a rainbow, that's all of the colors. So the spectrum includes all the different types.
Different types.
Different types of something. Okay, so in this case, it's called political spectrum. So that's talking about all the different types of political parties.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that means, that word spectrum. And
So,
I'm hearing an echo, so maybe somebody needs to close the Verbling window.
Excuse me?
Yes?
Heralded.
Heralded?
What is the heralded? Yes, what's the meaning of this one?
It means that it was a little heralded, so it means that nobody really paid much attention to it. They didn't make a big deal about it. They didn't talk about it very much.
Ignored, maybe ignored?
Yeah, but to herald something, Hossam, do you have your Verbling window open? Because I'm hearing my... you have the Verbling window open?
Verbling? Sorry?
Do you have the Verbling window open? Because I'm hearing an echo.
Echo? No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's right.
Close the Verbling window. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So to herald something means to speak about it a lot, like to make a commercial about it or something. But in this case, it was little heralded, so they did not do that. They didn't make a big deal of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't really tell people. Even though it has been an important law or measure with long-lasting consequences. So it was pretty important, and it's had an influence on the energy production in Germany. The law guaranteed small hydroelectric power generators, mostly in Bavaria, a political conservative area I like to think of as the Texas of Germany, a market for their electricity. Okay, so let's see, Bimal?
The law guaranteed small hydroelectricity power generators, mostly in Bavaria, a politically conservative area I like to think of as Texas of Germany, a market for their electricity. The EEG required utility companies to plug all renewable power
Okay, hold on,
producers.
hold on. So I wanted to just go one paragraph at a time. So the law guaranteed small. So this is the main thing that the law helped, was small energy producers. So it created a market for their electricity, which helps them to make money. Okay, I'm going to read this, and then you can read it, Bimal, and then we'll go back to it.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yes.
Hydroelectric, it means that the power generated by water?
Yes. Hydro. That's what that means. Yes. It's another form of renewable energy.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, the EEG, so that's the name of that law, required utility companies to plug all renewable power producers down to the smallest rooftop solar panel into the national grid and buy their power at a fixed, slightly above market rate that guaranteed a modest return over the long term. The pricers were supposed to balance out the hidden costs of conventional power, from pollution to decades of coal subsidies. Okay, Bimal, want to read that again?
The EEG required utility companies to plug all renewable power producers down to the smallest rooftop solar panel into the national grid and buy their power at a fixed.
Fa, don't mute him when he's reading. Bimal, go ahead and unmute yourself. Fa. Okay, Bimal, I can't hear you because you got muted by Fa, so you need to unmute your microphone. It's a little bit noisy, but go ahead and unmute it, and then you can read. Do you know how to unmute your microphone, Bimal?
Yeah, now it is okay.
Okay. Yes, it's okay now. Go ahead.
The prices were supposed to balance out the hidden cost of conventional power, from pollution to decades of coal subsidies.
Good. Okay, good. So
Investors began to approach solar and wind power as long-term investment, knowing there was a guaranteed future for. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just wait, because we gotta have some other people read. Okay, so the biggest thing that this paragraph is saying is that the way that they did it is that they required everybody to plug into the national grid. So if you put some solar panels on top of your house, you couldn't just make your own power. You had to plug in to the national grid and then buy the power at the fixed rate. So that helped all of the smaller producers, and it made the national grid have a lot more energy available to it. Okay? Does that make sense?
Web class açılıyor. Uygulamayı indir.
Recep, did you want to say something? No. Okay. All right. So that's how the government helped create a better market for small energy producers. Okay, that's what they're basically talking about, how they helped. Okay. Investors began to approach solar and wind power as long-term investments, knowing there was a guaranteed future for renewable energy and a commitment to connecting it to the grid. Paperwork for renewables was streamlined, a big move in bureaucracy-loving Germany. Okay, Fa, you want to read?
Hello?
Yeah, do you want to read?
11.
Ben onu anlamadım. O sınıfta göremiyorum.
Investors began to approach, right there.
Investors began to approach solar and wind power as long-term investment, knowing there was a guaranteed
yep,
future for renewable energy and a common tendency to connecting it to the grid. Paperwork for renewables was
streamlined.
A big move in bureaucracy loving Germany.
Yeah. So basically, this paragraph wants to tell us that investors, so those people who like to invest their money in things that they hope will make money for them later, they realized that because the German government was helping the small energy producers, they would invest their money because they thought they could make some money. And this was a couple of things. They had a guaranteed future for renewable energy and a commitment to connecting it to the grid. So every country has a national grid of electricity power, and you hook in all the different types of energy all the different types of things that make energy into the grid so that people can turn on their light bulbs and work their computers and stuff. And the paperwork, that's all usually a lot of business has a lot of paperwork, things you have to fill out and turn in to the government, that kind of stuff. So they streamlined that, which means they made it easier. So even though he's saying, the author is saying that Germany is a bureaucracy-loving country, that means they like to have a lot of paperwork and rules and laws and things like that. They made it easy for people to invest in renewable energy. The country invested...
Excuse me.
Yes?
So what we mean about the grid, it means that a system of generating electricity.
Okay, so yes, the grid is actually it's the name of the network. So the grid is like the network of all of the producers.
Yes. So here, the term "a big move in bureaucracy-loving Germany."
Yes.
So this expression, it means that they are loving Germany, so they try to destroy bureaucracy?
No. It means that, okay, so this first part of the sentence says paperwork for renewables was streamlined. So they made it easier. So they made less paperwork, okay?
Yes, good.
And they're saying that this is a big move. So that a big move means that is an important event. This is an important decision that they made in Germany, which usually likes bureaucracy. So bureaucracy means a lot of paperwork. So it means even though Germany usually has lots of paperwork, lots of laws, lots of rules, in order to support renewable energy, they made it less. You
mean that bureaucracy made it less, right?
The government
made bureaucracy less.
Yeah.
Right?
The government, it's all right here. So it says the government made less paperwork, and that's another
paperwork, which means so they try to fight bureaucracy. They try to fight bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
And love for Germany.
No. They're saying that usually German politicians, the German government, requires a lot of paperwork.
Yes.
Yes. So they're a bureaucracy-loving country. Bureaucracy-loving means they usually like to have lots of paperwork, but in this case, they made it easier so that they don't have to.
Streamlined this. They streamlined bureaucracy or paperwork regarding this issue.
The paperwork. Yeah. They made it easier. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's saying that that's a big move. That's new because they did that so that more people would invest. So they would made it easier for the people to invest. Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah. The country invested billions in renewables research in the 1990s. And German reunification meant lots of money. I'm going to mute you, Hossam, because I hear a lot of background noise. And German reunification, so that's when Germany, East Germany and West Germany came back together as one country, meant lots of money for energy development projects in the former East. Now, German companies lead the world in solar research and technology. The handful of companies that make inverters, the devices that reverse the flow of electricity and feed power from rooftop solar panels back into national grids, are almost all German. Okay, Hamid?
Okay. The country invested billions in renewables research in the 1990s. And German reunification meant lots of money for energy development projects in the former East. Now German companies lead the world in solar research and technology. The handful of companies that make inverters, the devices that reverse the flow of electricity and feed power from rooftop solar panels back into national grids, are almost all German.
Okay. So basically, this is saying that the country, so Germany, has invested billions of dollars in research, and that now German companies lead the world in solar research and technology, and that in fact, even though there's only a small group or a small handful of companies that make these inverters, they're all German. So the inverters are the things that make it turn from the energy that you're getting from the sun. It converts it into electricity so that you can put it into the national grid. So there's these little boxes that they make, and they're all German companies that are making these because they've done so much research. So does anybody have any questions about the vocabulary in that paragraph there? Okay. On a sunny day last May, Germany produced 22 gigawatts of energy from the sun, half of the world's total, and the equivalent of 20 nuclear power plants. The feed-in laws and subsidies pushed innovation to the point where solar panels are cheap enough to compete on the open market in Germany and elsewhere. Okay, Hossam? You have to unmute your microphone.
Yes.
Okay.
On sunny day last May, Germany produced 22 gigawatts of energy from the sun, half of the world's total and the equivalent of 20 nuclear power plants. The feed-in laws and subsidies pushed innovation to the point where solar panels are cheap enough to compete on the open market in Germany and elsewhere.
Okay, so that's pretty amazing. Half of the world's total energy was produced on one day there just by the sun. And that's equal to, so that means the equivalent of 20 nuclear power plants producing that. Takes 20 nuclear power plants to produce the same amount as all of those solar panels that are just on people's houses and barns and other places. The feed-in laws, and so feed-in means when they connect it to the grid, they have to feed it into the grid. And subsidies, that's money that they give to companies to help them create products, pushed innovation to the point where solar panels are cheap enough. So now they're cheap enough to compete. So it's getting cheaper and cheaper. The price for solar panels has fallen 66% since 2006, and the cost of solar-generated power may be competitive with coal in a few years, according to a study by UBS. Already, solar projects are thriving in places like India and Italy, despite a lack of government subsidies or support. And a recent Deutsche Bank report predicted grid parity in Bavaria by next year. Okay, let's see.
Excuse me?
Yes?
Subside or subsidies?
Subsidies.
Subsidies.
Subsidies. Government subsidies.
So what the meaning of subsidies is to
it's money.
Encourage?
Yes, money that the government gives to companies to support them, yes.
Subsidies.
Subsidies. Subsidies, yes. Yep. Okay, Yulisa, you want to read that one?
Sorry?
I'm waiting for Yulisa. Do you want to read?
For me?
No.
You ask me?
No, yes. Yulisa. Do you see it? The price for solar panels, Yulisa? Yulisa?
Yes, but my connection.
Oh, are you having trouble with your connection? Okay,
yes, my connection is failing.
Oh, it's coming and going? Okay, why don't we go with Keen and see if your connection works itself out. Keen, will you read that, please? The price for solar panels?
Okay. The price for solar panels has fallen 66% since 2006, and the cost of solar-generated power may be competitive with coal in a few years, According to this study by UPS, already solar projects are thriving in places like India and Italy, despite lack of government subsidies. The Dutch Bank report predicted grid parity in Bavaria by next year.
Okay. So basically, they're just saying that the price has fallen, so quite a bit, and as it gets cheaper, more and more solar projects are thriving. Thriving means doing well, so they're doing well in places like India and Italy, even though, so the word despite means like even though they aren't really supporting, the governments of those countries aren't really giving them money, even so people are still creating more and more solar panels and creating more electricity. And in fact, grid parity in Bavaria, so that means they're going to be producing enough solar energy as they do other types of energy, like coal, energy from coal. You might think Germany would be smug about all its solar success, but as usual, folks here are full of doubts. Part of the reason solar panels are getting cheaper is competition from China, which is threatening to push more expensive German producers out of business. Okay, Julie, do you think it works now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You might think Germany would be smug about all its solar success, but as usual, folks here are full of doubts. Part of the reason solar panels are getting cheaper is competition from China, which is threatening to push more expensive German producers out of business.
Yeah. So, of course, that's what happens usually. So some people start and then do a lot of research, and then as the research gets found out about other people, you can make other products. So they're a little bit worried, I guess, from the competition from China, where they can make cheaper solar panels. And that's what they're talking about in that paragraph. Last year, German conservatives... Yes?
The meaning of smug.
Smug, okay. Yeah.
Proud?
So it says, yeah, proud.
Oh.
Yeah, you might think they'd be proud of that. Or it's kind of like a negative, though, not just proud, but kind of like saying ha-ha to you, you know, like we're better than you, that kind of thing. But they're not saying that because they're worried that they won't be in the lead for very long. So last year, German conservatives, the political conservative politicians, tried to end solar subsidies entirely, arguing that plummeting prices, that means falling prices, were encouraging too many people to install solar panels. They said that the subsidies come at the expense of city dwellers without solar-ready roofs, low-income electricity consumers, and investments in other forms of renewable energy. Even environmentalists have begun to grumble, that means to complain, about the solar boom, which sucks up half of Germany's funding for renewables, but provides just 20% of green power. Okay, Marcia?
Last year, German conservatives tried to end solar subsidies entirely, arguing that plummeting prices were encouraging too many people to install solar panels. They said that the subsidies come at the expense of the city dwellers without solar-ready roofs, low-income electricity consumers, and investing in other forms of renewable energy. Even environmentalists have begun to grumble about the solar boom, which sucks up half of Germany's funding for renewables, but provides just 20% of green power.
Yeah. Okay, so they're basically saying that because they helped this industry out so much, the prices have fallen, and that they're saying too many people have installed solar panels, and that some people can't, so that's kind of not fair. Like the people who live in the cities that can't, don't have roofs that are ready for solar panels, and other people, and that even these environmentalists, so people who care about the environment, they started to grumble or complain because the solar industry is sucking up, that means taking up or using half of Germany's funding. So half of the money that is supposed to be for renewables is going to solar when it's not producing that much power. It's only producing 20% of green power. So that means that there's 80% of other types of green power. And they're not getting enough money to support them, is what they're saying.
So, Lisa, it seems that this kind of energy is expensive
Yes.
and produces not so much energy.
Well,
20%.
yeah, it's kind of the article is a little bit confusing because on sometimes it can produce a lot of energy, right? But it can't produce that much energy all year long. And so we're going to read about that in the rest of the one because we have to finish this. It's going to tell us in the last part of the article. So the proliferation, so that means when something proliferates, it grows a lot. So the proliferation of privately owned solar has large power companies in Germany worried. For 2 decades, they've been forced to facilitate and finance their competition, helping turn customers into producers. Soon, rooftop solar and other small-scale, locally owned renewables could upset the market for coal and nuclear power. So it's also about money and business here. Okay, Susanna.
The proliferation of privately owned solar has large power companies in Germany worried. For 2 decades, they've been forced to facilitate and finance their competition, helping turn customers into producers. Soon, rooftop solar and other small-scale, locally owned renewables could upset the market for coal and nuclear power.
Yeah. Here's why that's a problem. Renewable energy sources like wind and solar generate power intermittently, so that's the problem here, dependent on the sun or fickle breezes. Until researchers can find a way to store energy at a large scale, coal and nuclear plants, which can't simply be switched on or off at will, must be kept running to guarantee a steady stream of electricity when the sun isn't shining. Okay, Nuray, do you want to read? That one right there? Okay, she's off. Okay, Susanna, why don't you read again, and then we'll go back the other way. We're almost done here. Susanna?
Yes. Second. Here's why that's a problem. Renewable energy sources like wind or solar generate power intermittently, dependent on the sun or fickle breezes. Until researchers can find a way to store energy at a large scale, coal and nuclear plants, which can simply be switched on and off at will, must be kept running to guarantee a steady stream of electricity when the sun isn't shining.
Yeah. So they still can't get away from coal and nuclear because sun, if you don't have any sun, the solar panels don't work. That's basically what they're saying. That means overproduction of power. So there we go, Yuli said they're talking about overproduction of power during daylight hours as the country's ample solar energy floods onto the grid along with electricity produced by power plants. Power companies traditionally charge more during the day when offices are full and manufacturing plants are in full swing. That means when they're working. So the glut, that means there's too much, of daytime solar power reduces their profits. Okay? So sometimes there's just too much energy into the grid. All right, Marcia, you want to read?
That means overproduction of power during daylight hours as the country's ample solar energy floods into the grid, along with electricity produced by power plants. Power companies traditionally charge more during the day, when offices are full and manufacturing plants are in full swing. So the glut of daytime solar power reduces their profit.
Right. So in some parts, sometimes during the year, they're producing a lot of power, too much. That's called the glut. There's too much during the daytime, and that's usually a time when the power companies charge more. But if there's so much energy, it's reducing their profit. So the proliferation of solar panels on homes also takes high-margin residential customers off the grid at peak hours. And the energy surplus has driven prices for traditional coal and nuclear power down, even as renewables are still guaranteed more than competitive rates. Okay, Lisa?
The proliferation of solar panels on homes also takes high-margin residential customers off the grid at peak hours. And the energy surplus has driven prices for traditional coal and nuclear power down, even as renewables are still guaranteed more than competitive rates.
So when you have solar panels on your house, you get paid. You don't have to pay for the energy because you're producing now. You're not a customer, you're actually a producer. So that's why it's lowering their costs, because you paid money to put them on your house, and that's why it helps you. It lowers your energy costs because now you are actually producing. Okay? As power companies try to pass the costs to consumers in the form of higher bills, that just encourages more people to put solar panels on their roofs so they can save money. Already, Germany's power companies are closing power plants and scrapping plans for new ones. Germany had a national freakout after the Fukushima disaster and decided to abolish nuclear power by 2023. Okay, Hossam?
Yes.
You want to read?
Okay. As power companies try to pass the costs to consumers in form of higher bills, that just encourages more people to put solar panels on their roofs. Already Germany's power companies are closing power plants and scrapping plans for new ones. Germany, a national freak out after the Fukushima disaster.
Yeah. Oops. And they decided to abolish nuclear power. Okay. So basically, Germany is changing the way they're doing things. And this is the last paragraph. I'm going to read it. Meanwhile, energy prices continue to sink. That means they go down. And solar installation continues to grow. By decentralizing power generation, so making it so that it's not just in the hands of a few big companies, the renewables boom, so that's when something is happening a lot, a boom, could do to the power industry what the internet did to the media. Put power in the hands of the little guy, that means the normal people, and they want to force power companies to rethink how they do business as soon as the sun comes out, that is. So it would work better if there was sun all the time, but it's not a perfect system yet. So, okay, guys, we went past time a little bit. That was a pretty difficult article, so if you understood it pretty well, then that's good. You guys stuck with it, so good job. Does anybody have any questions or things they want to say? Do you have solar panels in Peru, Yulisa?
There are very few projects. Yes.
Yeah. It's still pretty expensive, I think, for most people, but governments are doing it, and in California they're doing it. Hi, Hassam, in Egypt, do they have solar panels?
I hope actually to have solar panels in Egypt, but I think we don't have, just little places maybe out there starting project, because you know that in Egypt and in the Middle East we do have a lot of sun. The sun is always here all the year round, but unfortunately they don't take the advantage of this advantage that Allah of God gives to us, the sun. And I feel shocked when a country, great country, I can't call it a great country like Germany, to try to use the sun, even though it has a little source of the sun.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm shocked about that.
Yeah. Well, Germany is kind of a rich country too, so they have more money maybe to invest. But as the solar technology gets cheaper, maybe more countries can afford to invest and use it, because certainly a lot of countries have a lot more sun than Germany.
Yes.
Okay, guys, we went past time, so if you want to go to another class or something, then you can go ahead and leave. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll see you guys another time.
Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you. Bye bye, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.